I know about everybody here has heard the good news, bad news stories a few thousand times. Well, the good news and bad news is pretty consistent. This fella came home and his wife said, "Honey," said, "I've got some good news and some bad news." He said, "Well, what's the good news?" She said, "The airbags work." I don't know how many of you ever have memory lapses or problems. I have a brilliant memory myself. It's just awful short. I love the story of the two old codgers, and they were visiting, and one of them was so enthusiastic. Their wives were off to the side doing their own visiting. And one of them says, "I've been to this new doctor, and he's given me this exciting new medicine." And he said, "Man," he said, "it's just helped my memory so much." And the guy said, "Well, what's the name of it?" And he said, "Well, tell me, what is the name of that flower? The stem's long and it's got thorns on it." He said, "Rose." "Yeah, Rose. What is the name of that?" Oh, well, now, let's take a serious look at what we were talking about in the David Lofstick story. Let's look at what are the lessons that we can learn. Well, first of all, let's look at that foundation stone of honesty. When times are tough, when you've really got a difficult assignment in front of you, there are those occasions when honesty is an absolute must. To tell somebody what they want to hear today, knowing that it's going to come back and bite you tomorrow, is destructive. David's doctors and therapists and family were honest with him. "Son, this is going to keep going a long time." And so they prepared him for the long road. Honesty is a tremendously important foundation stone to build on. What is character? It's the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed. When we set those long-term goals, character is what's going to enable us to reach them. Because there will be those times when we will absolutely want to quit. We really, wonder, is it really worth it? I think if you were to see David Lofstick today, you would say, yes, it really is worth it. David's 35 years old, has 3 beautiful children. The only concession he makes to the disease is so minute, again, that you could not even identify it unless you knew about it. He's an entrepreneur, been enormously successful in the real estate business. He works with his dad in one of the largest Maytag distributorships in the world. He has now opened his own computer store. He's got a lot of things going for him. Was it worth it? Absolutely, 1,000 times yes, it was worth it. His success is built on integrity. With integrity, you have nothing to fear because you have nothing to hide. But let me tell you what else this story is built on. It's built on love. One of the most beautiful love stories I think I've ever heard. When David was about 18 months old, they had to put braces on those little legs. And every night when they put them on, they had to progressively get them tighter and tighter. He's a beautiful little boy. Green eyes, olive complexion, coal black hair. And every night, David would look at his mom or his dad. He would say to them, "Mom, do you have to put them on tonight? Or do you have to make them so tight?" And I don't think there's a parent here listening to this or who will ever hear this recording who cannot relate to what I'm now saying. Your child, your baby, the one you love, tears in his eyes is saying, "Can't we leave them off tonight? Or do you have to make them so tight?" But David's parents, Bernie and Elaine, loved him so much, they were willing to say no to the tears of the moment so they could say yes to the healthy laughter of a lifetime. See, loving someone doesn't mean you always give them what they think they want at that moment. Loving someone is doing for that person what is best for that person at that moment. That's what love is all about. When you talk about loyalty, the loyalty of Bernice's family to David, all of his relatives, the loyalty of the sisters, the loyalty of the therapist and the bodybuilder. They became an extremely close family. You know, a lot of times serious illnesses split families apart. This one brought that family closer together. Now, how does this apply in our business world, our own success? How does it fit in? How important is loyalty? Several years ago, one afternoon at my home, I was writing. The doorbell rang. I went to the door. It was a good friend of mine named Brian Flanagan, who also worked with us. Brian was a little pensive, a little hesitant as he came in. He said, I hate to interrupt what you're doing, but I just brought you some news and wanted to tell you personally. And what he had come to tell me was he was leaving the company. He said, let me tell you about an offer I've got, Zig, and I'm enormously excited about it. And he started describing it. And I got to tell you, I got excited about his opportunity too. And I said, well, Brian, I got to tell you, man, I hate to see you go. I really do. He's a very valuable member of our staff. But he left with my blessings. He came back a few months later and said, well, everything that glitters is not gold. I would like to come back and work with you again. And we were, of course, elated to have him back. But let me tell you why he got the offer that he got in the first place. Everywhere Brian Flanagan went, he was talking about what a great company he worked for, about what a fine person I was. He was bragging about all of the people down there. He was saying, man, it's a great place to work. The attitude is so great. Everybody tries to live like they say they do. It's a wonderful place to work. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you think Brian would have gotten any job offer or opportunity offer from anybody else if everywhere he went he said, man, you can't be that lousy, no good outfit I work for? I mean, there's a bunch of bums out there. They tell you one thing, do another thing. I can't understand anybody acting like they do out there. How many employers would have said, man, that sounds like the kind of guy I'd like to have working for me? You see, it's absolutely practical. What I'm talking about here is something that is absolutely practical in every area of life. The man of character finds a special attractiveness in difficulty, since it is only by coming to grips with difficulty that he can realize his potentialities. I have thought many, many times, I wonder how much bigger and stronger and faster, how much smarter David would have been had he been given all of the chances at birth that you and I were given. And then one day it hit me like a ton of bricks. Had he been given more, he in all probability would have ended up with less. Maybe considerably less. And that's one of the reasons I take refuge in my faith so often. You know, the scripture says that all things work together for good. And we're supposed to thank God for difficulties. And the more I delve into the research which I do, the more I become convinced that we develop those strengths by overcoming the difficulties that we encounter in our life.